Hey everybody, it's Dr. Sandra Colton-Medici here, and I am so excited today because it's Monday. Woo! If you didn't have a woo in your Monday, well, there it was for you. I am excited because right now I am live streaming on multiple platforms, just to talk with you this Monday morning. I changed up a few things that I have been doing for my particular brand, College of Style, and I have decided that I'm going live to all of my different platforms at the same time, more and more and more. And today I wanted to talk about Brand Flashpoints 2021. Really, it's just kind of the third and fourth quarter edition of that. And I wanted to just bring up a few things. If you're not already following me on social media, then I encourage you to do so. I invite you to be my guest as I go live with a lot of different topics ranging from personal branding to content marketing and really personal development for, excuse me, I have a major frog in my throat this morning. Excuse me for that. Clearly, I haven't been talking very much this morning. So, but I wanted to invite you to join me on all of the other social platforms if you're not already following me there, because I do sometimes go live on different platforms separately and not all together at the same time. So I encourage you to do that. Today, I did not let my hair down. I am so in a bun moment. They need to bring that show back, Bunheads, for sure. But what I wanted to talk about today was brand flashpoints, because I feel like every single day I am seeing something change as far as the digital landscape. And I know that you are feeling that too. And sometimes it's really frustrating, right? It's really frustrating for people to open up their social media and not know where something went, right? Something's gone, features have changed, features are gone. And I feel like those are really significant. The biggest thing that I have really come to see as a flashpoint in branding and some of these social media platforms that we are kind of relying on for our reach and getting out our message to our audiences is that they are investing more in creators. And I think that that is huge. If you've noticed, sometimes in the headlines recently, like LinkedIn launches an accelerator program for creators. Snapchat announced a new creator monetization tool. Instagram has a few different features, not all rolled out to people right now, but for a few different creators, I've seen them talking about being able to monetize when they go live on their Instagram feed. And so the idea that people are valuing creators now, whether or not they valued them the same before, or they just are acknowledging it publicly that they need this kind of creator content, is huge to me. And I feel like if you are watching on Twitter, on YouTube, on LinkedIn, or on Facebook right now, then you get it, right? You get it that people are watching, right? They are watching the video. They are utilizing this medium to get their message out. And the more content, right? We consume a lot of content every single day, but the more content that is higher quality, the more attraction, right? The more people are going to stay on certain particular platforms longer, right? And even though people have, I would say shorter attention spans these days, that doesn't mean that they don't have an hour to get down that deep dive. I used to say, oh yeah, I fell into the YouTube, black hole of YouTube, right? Now it's the TikTok black hole, it's the IG, or it's the Instagram Reels black hole, right? So it's not that people don't have the time. It's just that people are now finding themselves watching this content on a few different sources, right? And a few different platforms. So I wanted to talk about a few flashpoints that I have seen that I think really stand out. And the number one is that platforms are valuing creators in the sense that they are trying to monetize. Now, whether or not they're doing that in a good way, right? Whether or not it's an equitable way or it is even boosting the bottom line of some creators, who knows? Because I think that some creators have talked about TikTok creator fund is not really enhancing certain bottom lines, but I am not part of that. So I can't speak to whether or not that actually enhances people's bottom lines. But I do know that I've seen a few creators talk about TikTok's creator fund is not necessarily doing a lot for their financial situation. But that doesn't mean that it's not important, right? So just the fact that it exists means that people are benefiting from it, right? Whether or not it's an amazing life-changing dollar amount, is to be seen. But I do think that that's very important, that platforms are valuing creators enough to start paying them, and paying them in a way that is very public, right? Like I said, Snapchat announcing the new creator monetization tool. Like I said, Instagram monetizing some creators IGTVs, which is now no longer IGTV, and which is now, I believe it's called Instagram Video. So if you are benefiting from that, then good on you for getting out there and putting your face on camera and acknowledging, like, hey, I'm a creator and I am out there. I think that it is very beneficial that we don't let these opportunities go to waste, so that they don't just fall by the wayside, especially if you are applying for things like the LinkedIn Creator Accelerator program, things like that. There are these opportunities. They are giving creators $15,000, right? That is life changing for a lot of people who are maybe not even making a living as a creator. So I do think that that is my number one biggest flashpoint of the 2021 year for creators, is the monetization that has been acknowledged publicly by all of these different social media platforms. Now, like I said, Instagram rebranding IGTV recently was kind of like I don't know if that's like a sign of the times, or if it's just kind of like it's been necessary and it just happened to fall around the same time that they introduced Facebook Reels, and it just feels very fast for all of these things to be happening. But during the pandemic, it's kind of like all of these different features came out anyway, that maybe they have been working on for quite some time. Who knows how long all of these features have been in the works? But I do think that the simultaneous here's our brand new feature, here's our shiny light over here, here's our all this, is very interesting with timing. And I think it's kind of that when people talk about the space race, right? Like, people don't want to be left behind. And in social media, digital marketing, all of these different platforms don't want to be left behind, right? They don't want to be the next victim of being deleted from people's phones, right? Oh my gosh. So I think that it's very important that we recognize how many features have come out recently, but how hard it is. I have something in my eye, and I so apologize for putting my finger there. I think that it's very hard for some people to keep up with the rapid change. And I don't know that the platforms are necessarily thinking about it like, hey, we know that our users are on 15 other platforms, but yeah, they can handle another change. Like, I don't know that that's what they're thinking, or even if it comes up in a meeting, because I don't work for them. But I do know that as a creator and someone who is utilizing social media every single day, it's a lot to keep up with. And so I feel like, just me already being somebody who's in it, I keep up with it because it's, part of what I do to kind of keep in touch with all of you, right? To keep in touch with the people that I talk to on a daily basis. But for people who kind of casually use social media, the changes might just be jarring, right? It might just be shocking to come into your social media and be like, I can't find anything anymore, right? And it might be the other flip side, might be really exciting. Every time you open up your social media, there's something brand new, a new shiny object. But I think that sometimes can get a little overwhelming, since we are not all on every social media platform. I think there's kind of like a top 5 for every single person. But I think that it's really overwhelming for that to happen all the time. So the IGTV rebrand was interesting. It was an interesting flashpoint because it acknowledges, I think, a little bit that there's this behemoth over here called TikTok, right? And we all thought it was going down. We all thought it was going down in 2020. And then miraculously, it's like the little engine that could, right? But it's kind of like the big engine right now. And a lot of people are seeing it as the next, right? I've seen people talk about the potential for TikTok Googling or indexing videos on Google, which could be ridiculous for the search aspect of people trying to find you and having all of this now content on on a Google search. That would be amazing because there's so many people who cannot be found, right, and are trying to have that reach. And what would that be like to see all of those videos now indexed on Google? I would love it because there's so many times I've used a lot of stuff on my TikTok feed that I'm like, I wish people would see this, right? The NFT for the creator has been a huge game changer, I think. And I don't think anybody has acknowledged how huge it's going to be in the future. Now, a lot of people create a lot of art and, different things for NFTs. And I don't think that, we're all really ready for that. I don't know that people have really gravitated themselves toward it to a really serious extent. But I do think that it is very relevant, and I think that people need to start paying attention to the real way people are making some serious money. And I don't even know that much about NFTs, but I do know that people are talking about it in a way that is revolutionary, right? And I know a lot of people don't want to jump on a bandwagon, or they don't want to be seen as like, oh yeah, I just started doing it because everybody was doing it. But I do think that it's very important to acknowledge that that is a huge brand flashpoint for people who want to utilize their brand identity, their artwork, their genius, right, and start utilizing that as a branding tactic. That was one that I saw as really, really important this year. And beyond that, I think that the short form video, if you have not heard it from anywhere else, you're hearing it from me. The short form video is the now. It's not the next. It's the now. And I know that there are a lot of people who have not started, making their TikToks or making their reels or whatever it might be. They haven't started making their idea pins for Pinterest. It is the now. And so if you haven't gotten onto the now, it's almost like when you're planning your holiday sales. If you haven't already done it, like we're in October, you should probably already have it done, right? So it's really important to think about that. Like if you haven't started those short form videos, it's the now. It's not the next. The next is something we haven't even seen yet, right? The next is something we haven't even wrapped our heads around yet. This is the now that we are living in. It's not, oh, it's the new. I think it's going to take off. No, it's the now. Okay. So it's the brand flashpoint for every brand who's not doing it right now. I actually saw someone who was on LinkedIn who has a really big following on LinkedIn. And I saw their profile on TikTok, and it said something like, I'm on here, like in their description, it said, I'm on here because my 20-year-old employee told me I needed to be. I was like, well, that's good branding. But I also thought, you know what? They're right. That 20-year-old employee is right. And the reason why they're right is because the people who are on that platform know how to get in front of their audience. They are learning as they go, because TikTok is a platform that I think has so much wild potential, because it is morphing as people are creating, right? It is morphing itself. There are people who have, and this is another brand flashpoint, there are people who have made their careers as TikTok coaches, right? The platform specific coach is a career that I never saw happening, right? You may have thought of platform specific being more like software specific, where maybe you were a Microsoft coach, right? Or someone who is an Adobe platform coach, right? Where you're teaching people about the software. People are teaching people about trends, which used to be the job of magazines, right? It used to be the job of the editorial team, right? To showcase, oh, here's the new fashion trend, or here's the new tech trend that we should all be, following on. And now there are coaches teaching about music trends on TikTok, about point of view trends on TikTok, on follower growth on TikTok. It's an interesting career path that I had not seen coming, that I think is definitely a brand flashpoint. If you are someone who blew up on TikTok, you might have pivoted your entire business to now teaching people how you did it. So it might not have been your original intention. Like maybe you got on TikTok to, sing and dance and, tell jokes. Then you blew up, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, all these people want to know what I did to get here. So your initial brand now has this other educational piece that maybe you didn't even intend. So that's another flashpoint that I have seen that I did not see coming. I've seen people who are Instagram Reels coaches, people who are now Facebook Reels coaches, people who are just overall growth strategy coaches for growing your following. And it's interesting that that is now an actual career. It's an actual job. The other thing that is another brand flashpoint is there are people on TikTok who literally that's their job, is to make videos for brands on TikTok, is to put their authentic self out there so that the brands are now getting to different audiences with the kind of utilization. It's not the same. It doesn't feel the same as like a brand partnership, right? It doesn't feel the same as like a sponsored product. It feels like taking the audio trend and the point of view and the whatever specific dance or filter that needs to be used changes the game on whether or not it's considered what is a typical brand partnership, because there's not the same in your face, here's my, I'm holding the product kind of feel, right? You do have the, thing at the bottom that says sponsored or whatever, but you don't have the same feel. You might scroll and not ever know, right? Because it looks so authentic. And that's the point, right? So that's another brand flashpoint that I think people are not actually aware of, is that people are literally doing that job, is their job is making TikToks for other people. Now, that's something that I didn't see coming either. And I think that it's really relevant. And I think that it's only going to be more and more and more as the platform evolves, and whether or not it adds these, different shopping features and things like that. I think that the content will shift with the features, obviously. But I thought that that was really, really important. Clubhouse, I think a lot of people were on Clubhouse and they still are, but it's a different kind of vibe, right? If you've been on Clubhouse recently, they've actually added some quite new features where you can replay a room. You can search for different, I think it's different people, and you can clip different audio pieces, right? So it's definitely and then I think they added a new piece about the audio quality. So when you think about that as a brand, it was hot, 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 hot. All these celebrities were on it, on it, on it. And then it was like, oh, the downloads kind of waned off, and really it was a matter of time because people started going outside again, right? Pandemic hit, a lot of people were inside, and it was the thing. It was the fear of missing out. If you were on Android, people were like, what am I going to do, right? But then it kind of waned off. But now I think people are coming back to the platform. I'm actually doing a Clubhouse room at 10 o'clock, and it's interesting because I'm being more strategic about my presence on Clubhouse. But I think a lot of times people were just kind of like, oh, let me listen in, right? And now it's like, no, let me go there for something. It to me it feels a little bit like Pinterest. Like I'm going to go there for something, right? And I think that that's a very branded flashpoint, the clipping, the enhanced audio, the searchability of different people, the back channel chats that they now have. I mean, all of that is just, obviously it takes time for new companies to add new features, but I think that it is so good that they are adding these new to bring people back to the platform. That's another brand flashpoint that I wanted to talk about, especially since if you want to come with me over to Clubhouse at 10 o'clock, you can come over there. I'm going to have a little chat. It's going to just be very brief, but I'm going to open it up to Q&A, and we're going to talk about personal branding, developing your business, and content marketing, how you're going to utilize all of your content to reach your audiences. Now, Twitter, because I'm also broadcasting live on Twitter right now, has just opened up applications for professional profiles. So this is for brands and creators, and I think that that's really important. They've also created something called Twitter Communities. I'm also a Twitter Spaces host. So if you have joined me on any of our Twitter Spaces sessions, that also has had a lot of upgrades and changes. And I think that Twitter Spaces hasn't fallen off yet, right? It hasn't fallen off. And that people recently, I don't know if you saw in your notifications if you're on Twitter, but they have a little notification when you get in that now you can search Twitter Spaces. And there's a lot that say, happening now or coming up. And that is really important too, because if you're on Twitter, it was really hard to find Twitter Spaces. It was kind of like it was at the top. It was only people you were following. But now it's like, hey, it'll tell you this space is going on because it'll say you follow the host, right? So that's really, really cool. And I like that function. But it brings Twitter Spaces up a notch because it wasn't very usable in the sense that you couldn't find anything, right? You couldn't find your people. And it's always good to be able to find your people. Now, like I was talking about TikTok earlier, Instagram jumped on the bandwagon, got the reels, right? Facebook got the reels too. Oh my goodness. It's like every marketer's nightmare, right? Is another thing we have to do, another place we have to create content for, right? Or repurpose our content for. And I actually talked to somebody who's kind of in the beta version of that Facebook Reels before, it was out there. And I was like, really? Really, they're doing this? But I saw the other day, I was like, you know what, this could be good, because I saw a notification on Instagram that asked, and there's and you can see it on your profile. It asks you and there's a lawnmower going on outside. So I totally apologize if you hear that in the background. But it asks you if you wanted your Instagram Reels to be shown to Facebook audiences. So it does, if you say yes, it should increase your reach of your Instagram Reels, and maybe you won't have to do so much work on the back end to create Facebook Reels if your Instagram Reels are hitting on Facebook. So I'm hoping that that's the case. Obviously, who knows, because there's a lot changing from Facebook and Instagram on the daily. And then also, I did want to mention that TikTok reached 1 billion users. If you think about your online growth, it's astronomical to think about 1 billion people in any one place. It's mind-boggling. But it gives you perspective. And I always like to talk about, if you are online and you're reaching your audiences and maybe 5 people show up, maybe 100 people view your content, maybe 100,000 people view your content. A lot of people get hung up on those numbers, right? They get hung up on, oh, nobody saw it, right? Well, people do see it. They may not tell you they see it. You may see your view count be pretty low, but your view count being 25 people, I always talk about retailers and how prepared they are for people to walk into their store, and how if 25 people walked into your store right now and you were the only person behind the counter, would you be able to service all those people? I don't think so, right? If you were doing a speech and 25 people walked in to hear it, it's a pretty decent crowd, right? And so a lot of people will look at those numbers and compare themselves to people getting 1 million views and 1 million likes and things like that. And I'm like, you know what? For everyone, there's a win in social media. There's always a win for businesses in social media. And that's because it's free to get on. and you don't necessarily have to advertise, and you still can get to reach people that you may not have reached before. That's a win. And so I look at the billion people on TikTok and I'm like, that's opportunity. If you look at it from any sort of business standpoint, that's an opportunity to reach all of those users that are in your specific target market, I have to say, but that you can get out to. It's amazing, that kind of opportunity. It is amazing. And I definitely think that's a huge win for TikTok this year. Let me see here. Another one that I wanted to talk about was Pinterest. Now, I've been on Pinterest. I had a different account for a long time, and I recently, we launched the Pinterest.com/College of Style, and I love Pinterest, and I love the idea pins. I saw that they are having this Pinterest Creator Festival. I'm excited about it. I think it's awesome for this brand. And I do think that they're, being able to, if you're a business and you have Shopify and you've linked it to your Pinterest account, you have all of this goodness going on over there that I think is a different kind of growth, right? Majority women on the platform. So if you have a business that is targeting women, I find it hard to believe that you're not on Pinterest. And if you're not, then you need to get onto Pinterest. And really, it's this like visual search. It's Google, but with visuals, because not all Google searches have the actual image, attached to it. And so I really encourage you, if you haven't started your Pinterest account, I encourage you to do so, and especially because they announced this kind of they have the Creators Festival coming up, but they also announced a partnership with Albertsons. Now, Albertsons is my store. It's right down the street. I go to Albertsons all the time. But if you are shopping on Pinterest at Albertsons, like that's another kind of thing. That's a whole other thing. And I don't know if that's going to like spur different creators to like go and do like different aisle walks, like down the aisles of Albertsons. Like I'm not quite sure how that's going to play out. But I do think that if you're a chef, if you are somebody creating meals or any kind of content in that range, that could be great for a brand new creator that is in the hospitality side of things. I really do think so. The other thing is, they were doing recently, and I don't know if they're going to roll it out to everybody, but Pinterest was doing lives. Now, I love a Pinterest live. They had multiple cameras. They had comments rolling. They had where you could follow the people who were live. There was so much right with the Pinterest live, and you could shop the products that they were talking about at the time in the Pinterest live. I just thought that whole thing was amazing. And that was another brand flashpoint for Pinterest that I think if you missed that whole Pinterest live that they did, I think it was at the beginning of September. That was to be seen. And I do think that they are upping their game on all of those features that you may not even have recognized. The other part that Pinterest does very well is they are I would say trend hunters, right? They offer up the statistics to their audience, which I was like, did they just tell you what's going to be on trend? Did they just tell you ahead of time what they are paying for in research and in their own internal data that they see as trending? They're giving it to you for free. If you're on the business side of Pinterest, they're giving you that information for free. If you are seeking out information, a lot of times people will do this. They'll go onto Google, start like they're creating an ad, and they will get the knowledge for free of what's actually like trending hashtags and different kinds of things on Google. If you go over to the Pinterest side, you don't even have to do that. You don't even have to do that. You just go to their business side and there's a whole report. There's a whole report right there for free. And I'm just like, if people aren't looking at this, then you are missing out on free information especially for small businesses, small creators that don't have the research budget to go out and actually do surveys and talk to, all these different people, you could find it right there on Pinterest. And that to me was a huge brand flashpoint, especially with their partnership to facilitate grocery shopping inside of the app. I was like, I didn't even think about that. When people do stuff and I'm like, really? Really? They're going to do that? Like, okay. Like, let's see how that works out. Like it could blow up, which is another flashpoint that I took on this year, which is going live, like I said, on multiple different platforms. But the one that I decided I was going to do, because I already had an influencer account, is I was going to get on Amazon Live. And it's the best thing since sliced bread. If you are not following me on Amazon Live, I need to put up in the in the banner. I want to put it up here because I want you to follow me on Amazon. So it's going to scroll on the bottom. You can see it go down there. Hands down, one of the best experiences I ever do weekly is a live on Amazon. And it came out, I think, almost a year ago or so. And a lot of people don't know that this is actually a thing. It reminds me a little bit of like a QVC or an HSN, except for what is the difference is I think it's like the evolution of those, right? And not to say that there's anything wrong with them, because I think that they are doing their deal. HSN and QVC are doing the business. But Amazon's reach is so global. It is so global. I am a brand new person to Amazon Live. So I have only done maybe 7 or so. Like, this is very recent for me. But when I do them, I get so excited. I'm like, come shop with me. And I have been on my Twitter account. If you're not following me on Twitter, I have been posting Christmas idea gifts because I love Christmas. I love the holiday seasons, and you will see tons of ideas from me on Twitter, especially. But you will get to hear about my experiences with products on my Amazon Live. And it's not that I stopped talking about digital marketing or personal branding or even strategy. I talk about it all during my Amazon Live, because a lot of people will go from one platform to another and they'll switch up what they're talking about. And to me, that doesn't make a lot of sense, because if you want to be known for something, you talk about that thing, right? I'm not necessarily going onto Amazon Live saying, okay, now I want to be, this product pusher, right? I talk about my experiences with certain products, but I also talk about style and strategy, right? What your communication style is, how you can utilize the things that I'm using or that are things that I'm talking about on Amazon to better your life or better yourself in your business. I actually talked about my I don't know if you can see this, my little if I can move this over. I talked about this is a little phone holder. It's got this like arm thing where you can like maneuver it so that it stays where you want it to stay. So I talked about this on Amazon, right? So it's not just like pantyhose and coffee mugs, right? For me, I'm trying to tailor what I love and I buy, right? And the products and the brands that I actually use all the time. And then also incorporate what I do for a living, right? What I do for business, because it doesn't make any sense to separate the two, right? It doesn't make any sense for me to talk about digital marketing, personal branding on one platform, and then on Amazon not have any sort of reference to that. So for me, I try to incorporate what I'm talking about that I use in my daily life, whether it's like a bean bag for my wrist when I'm, on my computer, whether it's talking about my cell phone and, talking about the iPhone that's coming out, as a product that maybe people should purchase or whatever, because I use it and that makes my, social media organized or whatever. So when you think about going live on a platform like Amazon, I highly recommend with your brand that you stay true to who you are, because it will only serve you better to be authentic on any sort of live platform. So that is a brand flashpoint for me and myself, because I never thought I would do something like that. I was like, you know what? I've had an Amazon influencer profile for a long time. I've created different lists and, sent it out to my email list and said, hey, I've created a brand new list of products that I think you would love because I love them. But to go live and be able to talk to people in real time, be able to answer questions. I was talking about my lipstick the other day that I use NARS Dragon Girl as like kind of my signature color. I also use MAC's Ruby Woo as one of my like signature colors because I love it and I use it every single day. And I think that it stands out on camera. I think that when I am talking on Amazon Live, somebody asked about, well, if I think the MAC Ruby Woo is matte, right? And they were asking, well, is it hard to take off, right? For me, it's not hard to take off. But I always talk about different ways that you can utilize things and then like maybe add a conditioner to your lips or something. But I think that that kind of interaction, when you're talking about products that you use, gives people more of a sense of who you are. And a lot of times when people get on like podcasts or any sort of other live platform, they don't get the intimacy of product specification that you do on Amazon because you get to tell these stories about, maybe it's like this is my USC Ross Sear pen. Okay. Like maybe I'm talking about this pen, but I talk about it because it's one of my favorite pens, right? Because of whatever the ink is in it or however it writes or, the way I hold it in my hand. Like I get to talk about graduating from USC, right? Or whatever. I think about those kinds of things when I talk on Amazon Live that are intimate details that you don't get with a lot of other platforms because maybe you're interviewing someone and it's not about you, all of those things. So that's a very big brand flashpoint for me specifically. And I encourage you, if you have an influencer platform or profile on Amazon, to start going live. Start going live. And the reason is because not very many people are doing it. But live shopping is the next. And like I said, with TikTok short videos are the now. Live shopping is the next, right? For any creator or influencer who's trying to build their audience and following, that's the next. So if you are inclined to do so, I would get your application in to do, to your Amazon influencer application so that you can get access to go live. Now, just following up on that, one of the last couple things that I wanted to talk about are languages on different platforms. So you'll see like Pinterest, obviously pinning is a thing, but people in Instagram and Facebook land have been talking about pinning comments to the top, right? And now TikTok is pinning TikTok videos to the top. I think you can do 3 right now. And so utilizing that kind of like overarching language is very interesting to me. And I find it to be one of what I would consider a brand flashpoint in that we are utilizing language across platforms. And that is interesting because you want to differentiate yourself from other platforms by utilizing your own vernacular, right? You want to utilize your own thing. That's why Instagram has Reels, but now Facebook has Reels too, right? So they're kind of combining the two so that it's kind of this like cross-platform language. They didn't say Instagram has TikToks, right? They didn't say that. But they do say you can pin a comment, which is Pinterest language, right? TikTok is pinning TikToks. So to me, I'm thinking, are these platforms utilizing this like cross language to their benefit? Because they know that the audiences understand what pinning means. And if they're utilizing Pinterest language, then should I be looking at Pinterest more? You know what I mean? Like, does that mean that they feel like people understand Pinterest enough to say, I'm going to pin a comment, I'm going to pin a TikTok, right? So it's interesting there in that typically you want to differentiate yourself from the competition, right? But if you're utilizing the competition's language, what else are you looking at? Right. To me, that's how I think. It's like, okay, well, what else are they looking at over at Pinterest? Right. And I think that some of the things that Pinterest is doing is really spot on. just being able to have that Shopify integration. If you haven't noticed, and on my Shopify page, if you are on TikTok or if you're on Twitter, you'll see I post some of the products on my Shopify page that I just recently launched. But there is something called Easy Talk, which you can now put your TikToks on your Shopify profile. So, or store, sorry, Shopify store. That's like a game changer. If you think that you're trying to showcase, maybe product demos or something like that in your TikTok videos, you can then take that and utilize that Easy Talk app and put it right there in the middle of your Shopify store so that people can see what you're making or how you made it or how you packaged it or how you unopened the initial shipment, right? How you personalized it. That I think is also another brand flashpoint, is that Shopify is allowing that on their platform because they recognize the power of TikTok, right? They recognize the power of that short form video. Who knows if there's another app that you can then repurpose your reels onto Shopify? I'm sure that's probably coming if it's not already available. But that to me was like, what? You know what I mean? Like, okay, so I added it to my Shopify store. Now, I think that is really important to think about, is that cross-platform utilization, repurposing of information and content as you are building out your business. So that was another thing that I wanted to talk about, is the language that people are using. And recently on social media today, they actually talked about this in September, is Pinterest testing the idea pin and sharing it directly to Facebook and Instagram stories. Now, I know that would be game changer too, is if we are sharing our idea pins as story pins. Because when you open up your Instagram account and you open up, Facebook, you might go somewhere else, but on Instagram, you go to people's stories, right? You go to see how their day is going because it's kind of like that behind the scenes aspect of things. And I think that is really, really important as features get rolled out, that we are utilizing them to our advantage. Because as a business owner, as somebody who is branding yourself, you are your business. Those stories are really important, that people get to know you, that people get to know your personality. They get to know, a little bit more about your life, what you're comfortable in putting out there, so that they trust you, right? They trust you enough to buy from you if you are a business, right? So those are some of the brand flashpoints that I had for this year, at least for, I'm going to say, through quarter three. We'll see if I do another one of these for quarter four, because anything's possible in social media and digital marketing. Anything is possible. Obviously, brand flashpoint, Instagram and Facebook went down the other day. Clearly, that was like a huge thing. And there's a lot of obviously things about different social media aspects that are dangerous, maybe potentially for children, as far as addiction or troublesome comments with bullying. But that's a whole other conversation. These ones are just really what I saw as, things that you can utilize in your business to up level your brand by utilizing some of these social media platforms and features that have come out. So I hope that this was informative for you, that you take this with heart and you go back and you implement some of the things that I talked about. Obviously, things will change, and change is good. So, run with it. I always am like, just roll with that change. And I know that everybody puts together their marketing plans and they've got all these best laid plans, best intentions. But you got to be able to just like, we got to change, just like that IGTV, everything just changed over to IG video. Instagram's no longer a photo sharing app. It is more of a video app. Like, okay, like roll with it, people. Just do what you can do to make sure that you stay true to your brand, your authentic self, and put out content that's meaningful, because that's the content that resonates with your audiences, no matter what the algorithm does. If you have content that's going to be on point with what your audience wants, then you're going to be golden regardless if you have 25 views or 25 million views. you're servicing your base. And that's the best thing that you can do for your brand. I wanted to thank you so much just for joining me for this, last almost an hour now of talking about different brand flashpoints. Like I said on a different live a few days ago, I've changed up my strategy. I'm going live on a lot more platforms. Like I said, today, I am joining you on Facebook inside of my group, on Instagram, or not on Instagram, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, and on Twitter. Oh my goodness, I'm so excited. Thank you for joining me. I see your comment on LinkedIn. And so I'm so excited to be doing this. And obviously, if you haven't had a chance to follow me on all social platforms, I encourage you to do so. It's been a really like a decent time trying to wrap my head around how to restructure. And I think a lot of people are in the middle of this conversation with themselves. How do I restructure what I am doing so I'm not like solely reliant on an Instagram, or I'm not solely reliant on a Facebook, but that you really are giving what you can give to your audience, no matter if it's on one platform or another. I always just recommend have two, just in case one goes down, right? Just in case, but also so that you are, reaching out to more audiences than just in one place, because you never know, you might attract an amazing audience on LinkedIn, or an amazing audience over there on Amazon, or on, whatever blogging platform you have, or it could range into your podcasting platforms. If you're not following on Fireside, check me out on Fireside for my podcast. Like there's so many things that are just happening. Oh, I put it up here. I can't see your name because it says LinkedIn. It says thank you. So thank you for joining me on all of these random platforms, because I know that people live what they live. And so I wanted to reach out on all different platforms to say hello. How's your Monday doing? How is your Monday going? Leave a comment in the chat so that I can see that you joined me here today, whether it was live or on the replay, so that I know who you are, because I always want to say hi to people who are watching. If I missed you, if I missed your comment, I certainly circle back to see if I missed any. Here are some of the social profiles that I have. And I encourage you to follow me over there. Instagram, actually, that's not the new one. It's actually Instagram at My College of Style. So I apologize for that. And I will see you on the next one. Have a really great Monday, you guys.